Hey y'all, I am just sitting here waiting. I have about 20 minutes before my first meeting this morning. And I was gonna post the video about my giveaway, but it seems really early to do that. And then I realized that I didn't say anything about the book that I'm currently reading in my review video yesterday. So usually in my videos, I review a book and then talk about what I'm currently reading. What I'm currently reading is The Stand by Stephen King, and it's the unabridged, uncut edition that he put out, I think for maybe the 10th anniversary of the book. But in print, it's over 1,000 pages. It's about 1,100 pages. In audiobook, which is how I'm reading it, it is 47 hours. So the only thing I think I've ever read that has been that long in audio is Ron Chernow's epic biography of Alexander Hamilton. So The Stand is separated into 3 books. And I just finished the first one yesterday, and I think that it was 17 hours long or something like that. So I don't know if, I'm sure, you know, this book is so old and a classic, really. So most people know about it probably, but in book 1, there's an infection. And I had totally forgotten that The Stand was about an infection, but that's why I picked it up, because somebody mentioned it. Somebody said something about it, and I was like, I don't think that's what that book is about. But turns out the entire first third of the book, there is a government agency or establishment or organization or whatever, and a man escapes just as contamination happens. So he is working at the station. He realizes something's about to go down, and 30 seconds before he's locked in, he bolts. And basically, the first half of book 2, well, maybe that's not fair. A lot of book 2 is about the spread of this highly contagious, highly mortal, with high mortality rate virus. So it's kind of like a flu, except that as soon as your body starts to fight it off, it mutates. We don't know anything about what the plan was for this virus, just that it's out. And all the symptoms look like cold symptoms, and there's a lot of sneezing and mucus and all of that sort of stuff. And we've been introduced to quite a few characters sort of in depth, because I believe they've said that the rate of mortality is 99.9% or something like that. So there is going to be this small group of, well, I guess it won't be that small because we have 7 billion people, right? Small percentage of humans who don't get killed off by the virus. But then there's also this little part in book 1 that is like all the ways people die right after, you know. So like there's a little boy wandering around and falls in a well. So I think this pretty much is why I have no intention of surviving an apocalypse. I've already told the kids, especially if it's like a zombie apocalypse, that they're supposed to shoot mommy first because I have no intention of running or eating dog food or fighting the neighbors over the apples that are falling off the tree, like whatever it is. I'm not doing any of that. Also, this idea about like no electricity, no thank you. So in book 1, the infection is spreading, and some areas still have electricity, but it's starting to fail in some of the smaller areas. So we have right now a criminal, we have an ex-military guy, we have a guy who's deaf and mute, we have a guy who has just escaped Manhattan with an older woman that he found and has been kind of connected with until they leave the city. And they go through the Lincoln Tunnel to get out of New York City. And tunnels, no. Tunnels full of dead people, double no. But it's interesting to read this book, and this is probably the fourth book or so about a contagion that I've been reading since we've actually been in a pandemic ourselves. And it's interesting to read it in that context. So one of the things that I think is so interesting is that, you know, in all of the contagion books, there's this vision of people running, you know, trying to get away from the virus or bacteria or spore or whatever the thing is. And usually that's because there's this sense of urgency. So the first people get sick, and then people start to try and outrun it. And what we're living through right now, one, because the mortality rate isn't 99%, so that makes people feel like, you know, there's a low sense of urgency. But also the incubation period is longer. So that just makes people feel like, oh, you know, I got time. I don't need to worry about it. I don't need to mask up, but mask up, people. Don't be disgusting. So yeah, I stopped book 1 and then read The Vanishing Half. So that review and giveaway will be posted before this. So I'll tag it here somewhere probably. And so since I took a break, read a book, I'm going to read book 2 of The Stand next. It took me a while. I am not spending as much time on audiobooks as I have been before. I was home so much. So I think it took me almost a week, but I mean, it was 17 hours, but still it would usually only take me a few days to get through that at 1.75 speed. I'm reading it on Libby. Hopefully it doesn't have to go back to the library before I can get through the whole thing. And then I have Mrs. Fletcher on Libby waiting, which I might just give up and let somebody else have that because it'll be a while. And an Allende book, though I can't think of which one it was. Somebody was talking about it on the air and I had to have it. So I put it on hold, or I borrowed it through Libby. So anyway, people, wash your hands, put your mask on in public, keep social distancing. Why are you out in restaurants right now? Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Stay home. Unless you're in New Zealand, who knocked the virus out because they know what they're doing and they're an island and people are just taking care of each other. Be like that. But I will talk to you guys for the second third of The Stand.